I'm sorry, sir. The bank is closed.
I know you from somewhere.
The stock market crashed.
What should I do?
Invest. It's the only way. I'm sorry, sir. It's all gone.
You've lost everything.
No!
This is Dr. Anush from Mumbai University. The lost generation was the generation that came of age during World War I. The term was popularized by Ernest Hemingway. The term is used for the period from the end of World War I to the beginning of the Great Depression. Though in the United States, it is used for the generation of young people who came of age during and shortly after World War I, also known as the World War I generation. This generation persuaded people that happiness could not be achieved in war. Not only did the war destroy the landscape of the battlegrounds, it destroyed the minds of the people fighting in it. PTSD, something that they did not know of at the time, is a mental condition that results from the consequence of tragic events.
University. After Prohibition went into effect, it became illegal with few exceptions such as alcohol for religious or medicinal use to produce, distribute, or sell alcoholic beverages. Legitimate businesses were replaced by illegal ones that paid no taxes. This led many drinkers to switch to opium, cocaine, hair tonic, sterno, or liquid heat, and other dangerous substances that they would have been unlikely to consume in the absence of prohibition. Leaders such as Al Capone created a circle of speakeasies, bars, that served alcohol legally. Bootleg alcohol was popularized due to people's desire to consume, but the sale of the substance was illegal. The push for the ban of alcohol was made by the women of America that were getting beat by their drunk husbands after they went to the bar and spent their day's wages. Men that returned from the war were outraged by the ban of alcohol, and it led to riots in the cities.
Hey boy, do you want a beer?
Me? There's no more alcohol anymore, sir. It's the 18th Amendment, prohibition.
Well, you heard me right. I didn't stutter. Beer. Alcohol. You interested?
Maybe.
Well, I'll tell you what. My name's Al, and we're opening a speakeasy over there on the corner where we'll be bootlegging some alcohol. So, speakeasy bye.
My name is Dr. Z from Michigan State University. Both gaining the right to vote and prohibition played a part in fostering a new lifestyle for a generation of young women who came to be known as flappers. The flappers of the 1920s rebelled against the sexual double standard that women are guardians of morality. Flappers were determined to have equal freedom as men do, as they pleased to work and in their own social lives. Ideas changed as Margaret Sanger became a birth control advocate. She changed the idea that women weren't just there to make children, but also had the equal rights that men had. Sanger's efforts led to Planned Parenthood and the first birth control pill. Women in the African American culture during Harlem Renaissance enjoyed similar social prowess as the males in the community.
I wish I had more rights. I wish I didn't have to give in to the domestic sphere that women could only take care of their kids and their husbands.
Lighten up, honey. There's a whole other world out there.
What do you mean?
Don't give in to conformity. Don't live up to the double standard all women think they have to live up to.
How do I do that?
One way. Become a flapper. A flapper.
Hello, my name is John Green from the University of Oxford in Missouri. During the early 1920s, many African Americans moved from the south to the north to escape the falling price of cotton and the wrath of the Ku Klux Klan. Since so many blacks moved, historians called it the Great Migration. The most significant African American community developed in the Harlem section of New York City. With a population of almost 200,000 people, Harlem became most famous for its concentration of talented actors, artists, musicians, and writers. Harlem brought notice to great works that might otherwise have been lost or never produced. The results were phenomenal. The artists of the Harlem Renaissance undoubtedly transformed the African American culture with the introduction of jazz and artists like Louis Armstrong. But the impact on all American culture was equally strong. As a result of changes made in the migration and communities like Harlem, the black middle class and educational opportunities increased.
Introducing the Louis Armstrong Band. Hit it!
Hello, I am Professor Matthews from University of ITT Tech, Colorado. There were many new innovations in the decade of the Roaring Twenties, and many of them impacted the people of the era, giving them easier and more accessible options to make new inventions that assisted the everyday person. Henry Ford created the idea of an assembly line that brought the car to the person and gave each person one simple job to do over and over. Using the assembly line, Henry Ford was able to highly reduce the price of cars and created one of the most popular cars of the decade, the Model T. Cars became cheaper and the average person could now afford to pay for a means of transportation that made them much more independent and let them have a larger selection of homes and jobs. In the 1920s, a new medium, the radio, suddenly appeared. The first commercial radio station went on air in 1920 and brought music to a few thousand listeners. The invention of the radio led to mass media and the transmission of information as well as music from things such as the Harlem Renaissance. People could receive information much faster through the radio than spoken word or newspapers. There are also many new innovations in different forms of art. Many signature pieces of writing came from this time period, such as The Great Gatsby. Scorning religion as hypercritical and bitterly condemning the sacrifices of wartime as a fraud perpetuated by money interests were two dominant themes of leading writers in the post-war decade. The novels of Scott Fitzgerald, Ernest Hemingway, Sinclair Lewis, as well as the poems of Ernest Pound, T.S. Eliot, and the plays of Eugene O'Neill expressed the disillusionment with the ideals of an earlier time and with the materialism of a business-oriented culture. These new pieces of literature were very popular, and even things like movies affected society. These new innovations were very influential and mostly beneficial to society, and led to large changes in things like literature, transportation, and media. The Great Gatsby.
This is a message from the Ford Motor Company.
Oh, no, not
It's a
another
brand
ad.
new Model T. It has 4 seats, an affordable price of $300, and you'll be able to go faster than your business rival on that horse carriage of his. Get it now.
should give me one of those Fords. Those sound great.
Hi, my name is Donald Trump, and I'm the Executive Vice President of Fox News. In contrast to industry, a portion of the nation was still agricultural. An example of this is when a teacher in Tennessee by the name of John Scopes went to trial for teaching students the theory of evolution, which violated the state's Butler Act. In the end, Scopes was fined $100 or $1,345 in 2015, with the verdict being overturned due to a technicality. The Scopes trial, in reality, was staged in order to attract attention to Dayton, Tennessee. But the trial showed how Protestants still had a large influence on topics. Nonetheless, William Jennings Bryan spoke for the prosecution of Scopes, and he was also a key figure in Prohibition, another topic Protestants supported. A different form of more violent and radical Protestants were in groups such as the Ku Klux Klan. Popularity of the Ku Klux Klan had risen to about 5 million members in the Roaring '20s. Native-born WASPs, like KKK members, felt their values were being threatened by incoming immigrants, which xenophobic opinions began to rise.
Hello class, today I will be teaching you the theory of evolution. How monkeys evolved into Homo sapiens.
John Scopes, you're under arrest.
We are the KKK, and we hate people who ruin America, like blacks, immigrants, and minorities. People who are non-white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, get out of here! Yeah! One flag, one school, one Bible!
Hello, my name is Alexander Ovechkin, and communism is a very ideal form of government. You should give it a chance. It has economic opportunity for all. It is very peaceful. And I am expressing it in my Fifth Amendment right. Communism for all.
As many people were accused, people also began to not only fear communism, but also of being innocently accused. Many protested the racial prejudices that influenced many of the arrests made, such as in the case of Vanzetti and Sacco, where two Italian immigrants, Nicola Sacco and Bartolomeo Vanzetti, were convinced of robbery and murder. Many protested against this case because they believed the men were innocent and were only accused because they were Italians and anarchists. The two men ended up being executed, which put many immigrants in fear of their rights. All nativist attitude among the Americans caused immigrants to fear that their lives were being attacked.
Sacco and Vanzetti, set them free! The Sacco and Vanzetti case is absurd. They are innocents.
The court is biased since they're anarchists and immigrants.
America needs to become the free country it claims to be.
Recall the case.
Hi, my name is Donald Trump, and I'm Executive Top Chef on Top Chef. Immigrants also felt their rights were being attacked when more and more people started advocating for prohibition. Immigrants felt like their voice was not being heard about being against the banning of alcohol. However, other minorities like women were able to gain a large voice in the matter. They created the Women's Christian Temperance Union, which became the primary voice of the temperance reform and the most powerful women's organization in the 19th century. This was a major change because, for once, there was the strongest voice for something. However, women were still treated as minorities. Other major groups rose, such as the Anti-Saloon League, whose members were elected officials who also wanted prohibition to spread their influence. Even though temperance groups had a large voice, there were still many who disagreed.
Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to put that drink down.
You know what? America's crazy these days. In Ireland, we could drink the way we wanted to. It's my right to celebrate the way I want to.
I don't care what you think about alcohol and how the laws should be, because you're in America now, not in Ireland. What the laws are in Ireland and how you want to celebrate in Ireland doesn't matter here.
What are you going to do about it? I'm
going to arrest you.
For what?
For the consumption of alcohol. You cannot sell, you cannot distribute, and you cannot consume alcohol in America. So I'm going to have to confiscate that drink, put you in jail.
is Dr. Andy V from Columbia University. Women played a large role in the 20s and affected many things such as prohibition. Women were upset that their husbands were spending all their wages in the bar and coming home drunk and abusive. Women made large pushes for things such as voting rights and started things such as the National Women's Party and the League of Women's Voters. The National Women's Party focused on getting congressional support for the women's right to vote. For once, women used a more militant approach to gain supporters with picketing, parades, and hunger strikes. This was a change from previous suffrage efforts and played a major role in convincing Congress to pass the 19th Amendment. The League of Women Voters was a non-partisan political organization developed in 1920 to improve our systems of government and impact public policies through citizen education and advocacy. Its basic purpose is to make democracy work for all citizens. Women in the African American culture during the Harlem Renaissance enjoyed similar social prowess as the males in the community. Women, such as flappers, became popular and played a key role in the Harlem Renaissance.
Hello, my name is Mrs. Adams, and I'm from a Georgia Tech Penitentiary. Even though women were successful in establishing prohibition, they still were not satisfied because of the inequality they continued to face. After a very long fight, Congress passed the 19th Amendment in 1920, giving women the right to vote. However, the passage of the 19th Amendment did not change women's lives or U.S. politics as much as had been anticipated. Because of this, new groups arose, such as the National Women's Party. This group, led by Elise Paul, was more militant feminist group and wanted more than just the 19th Amendment to protect women's equality, which showed that women's approach on equality was changing. And now they wanted much more than the right to vote. Another group was the League of Women's Voters, whose members wanted to improve the systems of government and public policies with improved education. Their purpose was to get full democracy for all, but throughout the 20s, women still suffered inequality, whether it was with job opportunities or more rights.
Promotion in Tweed Industries this year. We have two candidates, Chad, the lovely janitor, or Mary Jo, the secretary. And the winner of the promotion is... Chad!
Thank you, boss.
Congratulations,
Thank you, boss.
Chad!
What? I can't believe this. He chooses the janitor over me, the loyal secretary who worked so hard all these years. How could you do this?
Chad! Congratulations, Chad! Give her the mop! Give her the mop!
I'm being downgraded.
Even though women were not exactly where they wanted to be with equality, they were getting closer. More women began working in jobs that were previously male-dominated, such as government roles. There was an increased amount of women working in government during Harding's presidency, but Harding's administration was not very well respected. Many conflicts and scandals came out during the 1920s about President Harding's administration, which is composed of his fellow friends, similarly to the spoil system used by Andrew Jackson. A major scandal was the Teapot Dome scandal. Earlier in 1909, the government set aside 3 large oil reserves. These U.S. Navy oil reserves were used secretly to enrich Secretary of Interior Albert Fall and his friends, Sinclair and Doney. The government found out that he stole from the government and from their own companies, and accused Fall of bribery. This scandal hurt the Harding administration reputation, as many viewed it as very corrupt.
Thanks for releasing me the Federal Reserves.
Give me the money.
Fall's under arrest
For what?
for accepting illegal bribes.
Although the Harding administration had a lot of corruption, there were many positive aspects. Due to his Hamiltonian policies and achievements, the Secretary of Treasury was viewed as one of the best ever. He felt it was best to invest in tax-exempt securities than in factories, and gave tax cuts to the wealthy. However, he was criticized by some for supporting economic inequalities, which left many behind, especially farmers. Farmers produced more food for World War I, But when the war ended, there was less need for the goods, putting them in a depression. The farmers' depression led into the Great Depression because the farmers were not doing well. The banks were not either, causing many banks to go bankrupt. As seen, inequalities, scandals, and difficulties Americans faced, politics in the 1920s were not as great as many thought to be.